No Man's Sky isn't actually that far from its 10th birthday, and somehow Hello Games just keep adding significant update after significant update, and at this point I'm entirely convinced they're fueled by caffeine and procedural enthusiasm. But today isn't about the past, today is about the future, and we're looking at what could come next, because even if a handful of these features in this video ever make it into the game, they would be genuinely revolutionary for No Man's Sky. The kind of changes that could reshape the entire experience in 2026 and beyond. Now, some of these ideas generally feel realistic, others feel a little bit pure space dream fever visions, but hey, this is No Man's Sky. Reality has kind of become optional at this point. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get stuck in. Right, let me start with something I think most No Man's Sky players may have thought about at least once. Why can't we play expeditions whenever we want? I'm probably not alone when I say expeditions are amazing because they're guided adventures that push you well out of your comfort zone. You get cool rewards from them. Occasionally, they force you to sprint across a radioactive hellscape because Milestone has told you to, and everything else. But the big catch is they're all tied to specific time windows. If you weren't playing the game that month, or perhaps you discovered the game later on, well, tough luck. You're going to get the FOMO version of No Man's Sky, and I get it, the limited time windows build hype, but we're nearly 10 years into this game's life. I mean, the hype is already well baked in, and we don't need the artificial scarcity. All we need is a menu that lets us choose whichever expedition we want to play, whenever we want to play it. And there are a number of reasons I want this, and for starters, I think expeditions are one of the best updates ever added into the game, and locking them away behind a calendar just kind of feels a little bit outdated. And it would certainly help new players who missed years of content, returning players who want to replay favorites, or maybe they want to get the specific rewards they've missed during their hiatus. And honestly, if we can already revisit a couple of past expeditions during the big yearly redux, then the tech is clearly there. Just turn the switch on from once per year to all of the time. Alright, moving on to something a lot more ambitious, but something that generally feels like it is achievable, especially with the fact that Hello Games are many years into the development of Light No Fire, and them also porting the tech used for that back over to No Man's Sky. Now, I am of course talking about multi-biomes planets. Right now in No Man's Sky, every planet has the same biome over its entire surface. It's kind of like a themed restaurant. You land on the planet and it says, hey, we're doing toxic swamp vibes today. Or, hey, today's special is firestorms and aggressive sentinels, wherever you go. And that's fine, it works, we're used to it by now, but imagine landing on a world where the biome actually changes as you explore further and further afield. We already know Hello Games is using Light No Fire tech in No Man's Sky, and Light No Fire's whole thing is a massive, massive world with multiple biomes stitched together, so naturally the community has connected the dots like a Gek accountant calculating trade profits. Picture this. You land on a planet and the region you touch down on is lush and green and everything that a paradise planet kind of gives you. But instead of the whole planet fitting that exact theme, there are climate zones. If you were to travel north, suddenly you're walking into snowy tundra. If you go the opposite way and head south, the landscape gradually dries into a desert. Basically, actual planetary ecosystems instead of one biome repeated 40,000 times over. I think such an update would not only make exploration feel fresh again, but would also make planets feel even bigger. If different regions had distinct styles, creatures, colours, and resources, suddenly your brain goes, maybe I should actually explore this world instead of immediately blasting off to the next one. Plus, this could also improve base building as well. You could pick your favourite region on a planet instead of just choosing between horrific storms or slightly different horrific storms. Imagine building a home on the edge of a forest overlooking a frozen valley, or a volcanic plain with a lush oasis in the distance. And look, I know fine well this would be a massive, massive change, but Hello Games have never shielded themselves away from ambitious updates. Just look at the last 18 months as prime examples, with the two Worlds updates and the Voyages updates. If there's any single feature that I think could make the No Man's Sky feel truly fresh again in 2026, it's probably this one. All right, let's move on and talk about something that I think desperately needs some love: exocrafts, because at the moment they're not really widely used by the community. Yes, we know they are there, but be honest, do you use them? I know I certainly don't, with the exception of the very rare times I want to dive 1000 U underwater in my bland and boring Nautilon submarine. But here's the thing: the Voyager's update gave us this incredible, fully modular starship customization system, where obviously you can build your own starships from scratch, mixing cockpits, wings, engines, colors, literally everything to make your ship look like it was designed by a caffeinated Korvax artist. So naturally, myself and other players have probably thought, hey, why not give Exocraft the same treatment? Imagine this: you can put a nice exocraft assembly station at your bases, you can walk up to it, you can swap chassis types, wheels or hover modules, cockpit shapes, engines, boosters, armor plating, paint jobs, weapons, so on and so forth. Suddenly, exocrafts become personal, and your Roma isn't just the same Roma that everyone else owns but never uses, and perhaps in a different colour. Instead, it's your Roma, a custom designed beast built for exploration, speed, mining, or just showing off at the next anomaly meetup, or on here on YouTube. This could even give each exocraft type its own identity. So you could have a tank, heavily armored nomad, a streamlined jet black Roma for speed, a goofy multi-tool on wheels for resource farming, a hovercraft that looks like a Korvax science project gone terribly right, and of course, a Minotaur mech customized to look as intimidating or as ridiculous as you could possibly want. The fact of the matter is, customization creates reasons for us to use them, so Exocraft need a glow up. They've been sitting in the garage untouched for years, and it's about time we gave them the Fast and Furious treatment, preferably with fewer explosions. Alright folks, it's time I got onto that part of the video, and if you've been watching my channel for a few years now, you'll probably know fine well that I think the Space Station Override needs a proper function. This thing has been sitting in our inventories for years like some kind of cosmic practical joke. Every update, I dive into the patch notes hoping something somewhere in there says that it suddenly finally does something. And every update I'm disappointed, and every update Hello Games effectively pats that station override on the head and says, soon. But enough of that. What could it actually be for? In the year 2035, when Hello Games finally decides to give it a function. But I've got three theories, which are a mix of speculation, wishful thinking, and pure traveller delusion. So let's get through those. Number one is the space station ownership. And I think this is the big one. Imagine if finally being able to claim your very own space station. You insert the override, alarms go off, the station lights flickers, and suddenly you're the new manager of your very own space station. You could rename the station, pick which NPC factions inhabit it, influence local trade prices, maybe even change the interior decor, even just different color of neon lights, that sort of thing. Owning station would finally give players a true central hub that isn't their freighter, and something that is actually fixed in the vast universe of No Man's Sky that feels like home. Number two could be faction conversion. Now imagine if you're in a Vikine system that has some of your favorite planets, but you just really want your Gek mates running around, running the show instead. Pop in the override, bam, suddenly the station adopts a new faction. It doesn't have to be law breaking, it could be framed as installation of new faction aligned protocols or data realignment. Basically, your classic sci fi excuse to do whatever the hell you want without upsetting the canon too much. This would also make trading routes, guild missions, local economy bonuses a little bit more interesting. It's like choosing which political party runs your favourite cafe, but without the real world arguments. And finally, number three, player hubs and group stations. Now this one's very community driven. Imagine if you and your mates or a big play group could claim a station together. It then becomes your shared base of operations with things like group bulletin boards, shared storage, display rooms for player ships, maybe even player controlled featured planet, teleporter, thingy-majiggy. It could be amazing. It'd basically be the anomaly, but without every single person in the universe standing inside it at the same time, waving oversized heads and pretending they're jetpack pros. It would also make multiplayer feel far more grounded, like your group actually has territory or identity in the No Man's Sky universe. But the bottom line is the space station override has been an unsolved mystery for so long that it has its own mythology at this point, but the potential could be huge, whether it's ownership, faction changes, group hubs. Hello Games clearly didn't add this in for no reason. Or at least I hope they didn't. Alright, before we jump into the next point, let me throw a question out to all of you because I love seeing the ideas that you come up with. If you could add one single feature to No Man's Sky in 2026, anything at all, what would it be and why? Drop your ideas in the comments below because I'm probably going to feature some of my favourite suggestions in a future follow-up video to this one. Alright, next up is something that could make the entire universe feel more alive without even needing new planets, new ships, new weapons, so on and so forth. I'm of course talking about NPCs, and let me put it simply. The NPCs currently in No Man's Sky have the energy of cardboard cutouts, politely pretending to live their best space lives, and I think we need NPCs that actually, well, do things. Like imagine walking into a space station and seeing pilots drifting through the hangar, engineers fixing up their ships, Gek merchants running around trying to sell something they definitely bought wholesale from Nanite Costco, or picture your freighter crew. Right now, they stand there like animatronics that just rebooted during a power outage. But what if they actually walked around the corridors, reacted to space battles, scanned for damage, even repaired a room mid flight? I don't even think it needs to be complex AI. Even simple pathing would make your freighter feel like a real capital ship and not like a polite museum exhibit. Christ. Let's talk about crew roles because right now we have frigate captains, we have pilots, we have freighter crew, but nothing really connects them to gameplay. So, what if you could assign crew members specific jobs? A repair engineer who automatically patches damage after freighter battles, a science officer who boosts hyperdrive efficiency, a weapons officer who charges your ship's cannons just a little bit faster, or a navigator who finds better missions or highlights better trade routes. Basically, an NPC update would give the universe a little bit more of a heartbeat. They'd stop feeling like props and become the weird little neighbours we all secretly love. Alright, let's move on and talk about something which I feel is a little bit of a missing piece from the game, and that is actual base defense and planetary threats. Now, I thoroughly enjoy building bases, and more importantly, I enjoy visiting other players' bases because they're far better at base building than me. But other than looking great, for the most part, bases, absolutely nothing happens at them. Your base could be on the most violent, storm-drenched hell planet in the galaxy, and it still feels safer than my freighter corridor after I place one too many decorative plants. It's like building a medieval castle in a universe where nobody has invented the concept of attacking anything. But imagine if that changed, though not in a chaotic or stressful way, but just enough to make the universe feel reactive to whatever you do. Like, picture this. On extreme planets, pirate crews could attempt to land nearby to loot your storage. Not constant, just random events that make living on dangerous planets actually feel dangerous. Or we could have similar events like those you see at your settlements. Every so often, the Sentinels decide your base is a little too resource extracty. You'll get a warning, your turrets activate, a wave of drones approach, you're forced to defend your home turf, or even better, just have NPCs land on your base as landing pads and wander around your base and interact with it. Anything is better than nothing at this point. And on top of that, you could expand base components and technology to include things like automated turrets, base shields, repair drones, defensive wiring options, so on and so forth. It would also give the exocraft more purpose as well, so if your base is under attack, suddenly the new roamer that you customized earlier becomes a real part of your defense strategy. To sum that up, right now bases are beautiful, they are amazing, but they are static. Adding small, infrequent threat events, or even just NPCs interact with them, would make them feel much more alive, like you're generally part of the planet's ecosystem instead of an intergalactic interior decorator. Let's move back on up to space and talk about deeper, more tactical space combat. Now, space combat in No Man's Sky in its current form is fine, it works, but let's be honest, it can be a little bit shallow, can't it? I'm not saying we need full on elite dangerous similar complexity, nobody wants to reroute power to 17 different subsystems while you're spinning through space like a confused frisbee, but just a touch more strategy could go a long, long way. Imagine being able to disable an enemy's engines, knock out their weapons, deactivate their shields, or blow up one specific wing because you're feeling a bit dramatic. Suddenly, every dogfight feels a little bit different. There is one thing that I actually say Starfield got right. It's space combat, and it's one thing that it does have over No Man's Sky because it's challenging, it's varied, whereas No Man's Sky's version is a bit shallow and a bit repetitive. I get it's not designed to be some massive space shooting simulator, but it can definitely be improved. And it goes beyond just you in your ship, because right now your squadron mostly just exists for moral support and cool flyby shots. But imagine giving them basic commands like attack, defend, escort, focus fire, or even personality traits, where one pilot is reckless, one is defensive, one is a show off who barrel rolls too much. The feature has a lot of potential. And of course, let's also go on to freighters and fleet battles. How about a full on fleet engagement? Frigates firing broadsides, pirate carriers jumping in, your squadron flanking the enemy, your freighter launching defense drones, explosions lighting up the asteroid fields like a Christmas tree designed by Viking warriors. Space is obviously a huge part of No Man's Sky, but the combat hasn't evolved much compared to other features of the game, so adding new depth, even just a little bit, would make exploring, trading, fleet building more meaningful. Plus, in a universe with giant space whales, living ships, sandworms, and planets actively try to kill you, it's about time that the space battles got a bit of a glow up as well. Moving on to a part of No Man's Sky that I think is full of potential, but is also one thing that not many players actually take much note of. And that is, of course, trading and the galactic economy. Yes, trading exists in No Man's Sky. You can buy low and sell high. You can collect 4 billion units from activated Indian farms and never worry about Space Buddy ever again. But aside from a few economy loops, there isn't really much depth to it. So, what could make trading more meaningful? Well, I've got a couple of ideas here, and number one is player driven trade routes. Let's say you choose two or more systems and establish a trade route within them. Maybe you're transporting high value metals, food supplies, weapons, luxury goods, or just mountains of Gravitino balls because you enjoy pissing sentinels off. These routes could earn you passive income, they could increase your reputation, improve the local economy, or on the flip side, they could attract pirates for more interesting gameplay. And what about more consequences for your actions? If you flood a system with trade goods, prices drop. If you supply a struggling system, it becomes wealthier. And maybe this ties into the space station override that I talked about earlier. Finally, how about missions that actually use this trading system? Instead of generic deliver these two things to this guy in this system, we'd see multi-stop delivery runs, blockade running missions, high-value transport jobs, and rare goods that only spawn in certain planets or after certain events. Basically, trading becomes gameplay, not busy work. It would introduce an entirely new playstyle, Traveller by day, Space Tycoon by night. Honestly, I'd play the hell out of that. This one may be a bit of a curveball because it has actually had a few updates to it in recent years. I do think we could go further, and that is freighter customization. The interior customization on freighters is good, but it could be better, and maybe it's just my opinion. But somehow every corridor looks like it was copy pasted from the world's least inspiring sci fi dentist office. Hello Games could expand the freighter build system more so it kind of matches the creativity we've got on the on planet bases. Instead of repeating the same corridor 98 times, imagine adding new rooms like crew quarters, cargo bays with visible crates, engineering rooms with moving machinery, maybe science labs with animations, hangar level expansions, and a bunch of other stuff. And how about a bit more decorative freedom? So we can place any decorative build part inside the freighter like we can do on our bases. We could have a real functioning crew where engineers actually walk around and interact with all this stuff, technicians repair things, security's patrolling the hangar. It would bring the freighter a bit more to life in the same way settlements brought like on planet settlements to life, obviously. An optional bonus could be some customization on the exterior of our freighters beyond giving it a lick of paint. Now, obviously, I'm not precious on that part, but a further update to freighter customization would go down an absolute treat in my book. Alright, last wish for 2026. And this one could completely transform how the universe feels moment to moment. And I'm talking about dynamic weather and story events. Yes, No Man's Sky does have weather. Yes, it has storms. Lots and lots of hazardous storms, toxic rain, firestorms, and the occasional I can't see anything but purple lightning and regret. But the weather is still pretty predictable. It switches between fine and dear God, why? There is no in between, and these storms cover the entire planet. Imagine landing on a planet and the local weather forecast isn't just storm approaching. Instead, a front of superheated clouds is rolling in from the north. The temperature spikes 80 degrees in 10 in-game minutes. Sandstorms are due to merge into a megastorm. The planet's magnetic field is destabilizing, and fauna behavior will shift accordingly, and suddenly weather becomes an actual system and not just a timed event. Instead of having storms that magically begin and end directly on top of you, imagine you see a storm far away, it moves across the horizon. You can choose to fly away from it, or you could choose to fly toward it for the masochists, and that means weather becomes something you actually navigate rather than just endure. This could even lead on to dynamic story events because of the weather as well. No Man's Sky has a lot of amazing lore, but most of it is static, quiet, and tucked away in text boxes or archives. But imagine a small, unexpected narrative from events happening whilst you explore. I'm talking about things like signals from crashed ships because of the weather that change depending on the weather or the time of the day, sentinel patrol sweeps that are triggered by disturbances in the atmosphere, maybe planetary anomalies that cause temporary rifts, distortions, or wormholes that appear during extreme conditions, rare NPC encounters where travelers start appearing at shelters, explorers landing during the storms, pirate scouts prowling the skies before a raid, or maybe even timed micro storylines where you get a message saying a signal has been detected and there is a bit of a countdown. Something's about to happen, you don't know what, and you can choose to investigate or you could choose to ignore it. These don't need to replace the big quests, they enhance the galaxy by making it feel unpredictable and reactive. You can obviously tell that I've thought long and hard about all of this stuff, right? It would bring back the early No Man's Sky magic where every landing felt like an adventure and not just a tech checklist. But the main thing is, I would love to see more depth to existing systems rather than brand new features, like fishing. Well, there you have it, folks. There is my 2026 wish list, or more accurately, a brain dump for No Man's Sky, which is part speculation, part pure fantasy. But the beauty of this game is that Hello Games has a habit of quietly making these wild ideas real. Obviously, I'm not expecting Hello Games to just drop all of these into the game over the next 12 to 18 months, especially with Light of Fire on the horizon, but a few of these ideas, even partially, would be cool, right? But as I mentioned earlier, now I want to hear from you guys. Which one of these would you want the most, or is it something totally different? Drop your ideas below and let's see what the community's collective imagination actually looks like. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you are still here, it would be totally awesome if you could support my channel by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. You can also become a channel member as well. And as always, thank you for watching this video, and I hope to catch you in my next one.